Good evening and welcome to this edition of Primetime News on TV1. I'm Jamal Ratnayaka for the Newsfirst team. Before we head into our stories in detail, let's start off with a look at tonight's headlines. President in Tajikistan to attend a conference. The Prime Minister in Singapore on a private visit. US government requests extra funds from its Congress for security affairs in South Asia. Venerable Pahiyangala Anandasagara Thera's statement about the American corridor and the destruction of the environment. Chief Justice grants permission for indictments to be filed against the accused of the bond scam. Attorney General informs IGP to expedite investigations into 4 cases, including that of Lasantha and Tajuddin. On to our top story this evening, President Maithripala Sirisena left for Tajikistan this morning to attend the 5th Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia.
The Conference on Interaction and Confidence-Building Measures in Asia will take place in the capital of Tajikistan this year. The CICA is an international forum to strengthen cooperation, established to ensure peace, security and stability in Asia. It was set up in 1992 and Sri Lanka received its observer status in 2012.
On a similar note, Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe left the island on a 3-day tour to Singapore last afternoon. The Prime Minister has left the island around 12:15 last afternoon in UL 308. Today, the Prime Minister has met with the Singaporean Minister of Law, K. Shanmugan, Minister for Foreign Affairs, Vivian Balakrishnan, and the non-resident High Commissioner of Sri Lanka. Now, views were expressed about the foreign tours of the President and the Prime Minister in the political arena today.
The country is like a ship without a captain. We now have to communicate the message that this country will not have a responsible leader for the next 48 hours. It has come to a situation where the cabinet cannot convene. Foreign forces are trying to sneak into the ship with no captain by using the personal issues between the president and the prime minister. It's like how the pirates are waiting to get into the ship. We now have to safeguard the country from these pirates. The anarchic political system should be eradicated. As the joint opposition, we have called an emergency party leaders meeting. Following the meeting, we are hoping to take the best possible actions to defeat the anarchy as the opposition. Sees after appointing someone in charge for the Ministry of Defence. There is a cabinet in the country. The cabinet will govern, and it is not us who has to answer these queries. We are now in the opposition. This is not the first time the President and the Prime Minister have left the country. We have had past instances where they have gone overseas. The relevant MPs and the ministers will take charge of the respective subjects. The administration, including secretaries to the President and Prime Minister, are also there to give instructions and make decisions.
Thanks. The Deputy Registrar of the Askiri chapter of the Siam sect, Venerable Narampanave Anandathera, spoke about the prevailing situation in the country.
The country has been destabilized in many aspects. The number of tourists arriving in the country has declined. Especially the syllabus for advanced level students has not been completed due to lack of time. They are not in a suitable environment to face the exam. Instead of providing a solution to these issues, the government is in a conflict between the constitution and the executive. Media reported that certain cabinet papers have been stalled without being approved. So when the country is in a situation such as this, we don't think the most important issues will be resolved.
Has the Pohot tour reached a consensus on the upcoming elections? The following views were expressed in this regard during media briefings held throughout the day.
Taking into consideration the prevailing situation in the country, we believe the best option is to dissolve the government and hold a general election. That is the only answer to these issues. We request the President to step down and hold a presidential election. I believe that's the most suitable option at this time.
The Chief Justice has granted the Attorney General permission to forward indictments against the accused in the February 27, 2015 Central Bank Treasury bond issue to the Western Province Permanent High Court trial at bar. Now, details of this story will follow later on in the bulletin. Meanwhile, the Attorney General has instructed the Acting Inspector General of Police, C.D. Vikramaratne, to expedite and complete the investigations on 4 separate cases which led to much controversy in the recent years. The Attorney General instructed the acting IGP to conclude the investigations and submit to him the copies of the investigations reports. Coordinating officer to the Attorney General, State Counsel Nishara Jayaratne, said the advisory was also directed to the senior DIG in charge of the Criminal Investigations Department as well to the CID's directors. The 4 cases are the assassinations of journalist Lasantha Wickramatunge and rugby player Wasim Tajuddin, the killings of the 17 NGO workers at Action Farm in Muttur, and the abduction and assassination of 11 youth from Colombo. Major General Ruwan Kulatunga has been appointed as the head of the National Intelligence Unit. The Ministry of Defence made the appointment based on the advice of the President. Major General Ruwan Kulatunga began his military career as a cadet officer of the Army Infantry in 1984. Prior to his appointment as the Chief of State Intelligence Service, Ruwan Kulatunga served as the commander of the Sri Lanka Light Infantry Regiment and as the commandant of the Defence Services Command and Staff College. Sisira Mendis, his predecessor, recently resigned from his post, citing health concerns. The U.S. State Department has informed the U.S. Senate to provide $30 million in foreign military financing to support the department's new security cooperation program in South Asia, the Bay of Bengal initiative, that will build maritime and border security capacity for Sri Lanka, Bangladesh and the Maldives. The State Department further requests $64 million for regional activities to support raising infrastructure standards, supporting regional energy and digital connectivity, and bolstering cybersecurity in the South Asian region.
Alice G. Wells, Senior Bureau Official for South and Central Asian Affairs, is currently testifying before the subcommittees on the fiscal year 2020 budget request for Afghanistan, Pakistan and South Asia. Her statement has already been submitted to the US Senate. The testimony lays out the goals of South Asia and Indo-Pacific strategies. As per the statement, the Indo-Pacific strategy is committed to ensuring a rules-based order with free and open commerce, freedom of navigation, democracy and the peaceful resolution of disputes. Quoting the document, these principles have helped to improve living standards for half of the world's population in the Indo-Pacific region, and they remain critical for the region's long-term future. 70% of global commerce passes through the oceans of the Indo-Pacific, and the United States will protect the seas and the skies through our diplomatic engagement, development efforts, and security cooperation. At the same time, the United States, alongside India, Japan, Australia, and other trusted allies and partners, will support the political autonomy of Indo-Pacific countries to ensure they can chart their own path to freedom and prosperity as satellites to none. We cannot allow China or any other country to subvert our partners through unsustainable infrastructure that pushes economies into unsustainable debt or by contributing to an erosion of transparency and democratic norms. Her statement further reads, though we have seen progress in implementing this vision for the region, political and economic freedom are not the only concerns for South Asia. On Easter Sunday, ISIS-inspired terrorists targeted churches and hotels throughout Sri Lanka with a series of coordinated suicide attacks. The Federal Bureau of Investigation quickly deployed at the request of the Sri Lankan government and helped dismantle the local terrorist organizations that carried out these attacks.
Now, the news item you just witnessed confirms the U.S. interests in the South Asian region. The agreements reached and the ones that are to be reached between Sri Lanka and the United States on security are being discussed heavily. The views expressed by religious leaders regarding this particular subject brings out a strong message.
අපි නිතරම අපේ රටවැසියන් පැත්තේ රට පැත්තෙන් ඉන්නේ අපිට ඇමරිකාවේ එක්සත් ජනපදයේ උදව් කරන බව ඇත්ත නමුත් මේ තීරණාත්මක සාධකවලදී අපි අපේ මාතෘභූමිය වෙනුවෙන් පිරී සිටින්නේ අපේ මහ ජනතාව වෙනුවෙන් ඒ නිසා අපි කිසිසේත් එකඟතාවයක් පළ කරන්නේ අපිට හානි කර ඒ විදිහේ කටයුතු කරනවා කියන එක දැනුවත් කිරීම කළා. ඒක ඇමරිකා එක්සත් ජනපදයේ කළාට අපි අපේ පාලකයන්ට වලින් වල දැනුවත් කළාට ඒ අය ඒ පිළිබඳව අවධානයක් යොමු කරන්න බවක් පේනවා. ඒයි ඇමරිකාවට ගාමින් චුකාට තුන චෝදනා තියෙනවා. අපිට මේ වගේ සිද්ධි ගොඩක් දෙනෙක් ලෝකේ භයානකම ඇති බවනේ අපටත් කියන්නේ රටටත් කියන්නේ ඒ නිසා විනිවිද භාවික සිද්ධ වෙනවා.
There is a dangerous global plan behind this. They will not reveal the plan to us, but there is one. We know how massive ships of the United States travel across the globe. They have placed them in a manner they can capture any country at any time they want. But nobody is speaking against it. They have to create chaos in the countries. If they do not create conflicts, they cannot sell their weapons. So how do they do that? They recognize the change in treatment. They encourage problems by betting religions and communities against each other. I believe that ISIS is also part of that system.
මම විශ්වාස කරනවා මේ ISIS සංවිධානය කියන්නේ අන්න ඒ වැඩපිළිවෙලේ කොටසක් කියලා.
We vehemently oppose any foreign force and any agreement which would pave the way for any foreign military to enter the country or create a base in Sri Lanka that would harm the sovereignty of our nation.
කිසිදු ගිවිසුමකට එළඹෙනවාට අපි තරයේ විරුද්ධ වන්නෙමු.
Sri Lanka is a sovereign nation, and for thousands of years our people have determined the destiny of this nation. There are a few important matters that the people of Sri Lanka would like to remind our leaders, particularly the ones who are reducing themselves to selling parts of our nation to their own political survival. Our leaders and other global powers would do well to keep in mind that Sri Lanka is more than capable to ensure her own security. We are able to protect our own borders, and if we require assistance, we will ask for it. No other nation or organization should be too concerned about our security or our borders, and while it is understood that we now live in a globalized world, it should also not be misunderstood that globalization means economic colonization. Unfortunately for Sri Lanka, and fortunately for these nations, Sri Lanka is being led by archaic politicians intent on salvaging and perpetuating their own diminishing political power. Despite this, it must be kept in mind that all religious leaders, together with the people, have always stood strong and against such acts of betrayal. The fate of our nation must be determined by the people and not by these so-called leaders who are nothing but desperate puppets in the hands of one global power or another. We the people shall protect our nation from the vagaries of decrepit politicians. We the people shall protect our nation from becoming a doormat to foreign powers intent on pursuing their own interests at the expense of our motherland. Many have tried in history. All have ultimately failed.
In more local news now, the Department of International Relations of the University of Colombo organized the Africa Day celebrations in Colombo today.
The event, organized together with the Embassy of Egypt, who is the current chair of the African Union, was held to celebrate the 56th anniversary of the Union. The Director General of the African Affairs Division and the Counter-Terrorism Unit of Sri Lanka's Foreign Ministry, the Deputy Ambassador of Egypt in Sri Lanka, was also present at the event.
I would like to acknowledge here the support that has also been extended to Sri Lanka by many African states during difficult times in the United Nations and other multilateral fora. Close and regular interactions with African countries by means of exchanging high-level visits is important in view of furthering our relations and forming common positions on matters of mutual concern. Sri Lanka's current development strategies focus on strengthening relations with Africa. And while our economic relations have much to be improved and developed upon, there is huge untapped potential in this area for mutual benefit.
Egypt therefore emphasizes the need to enhance the African Union's existing international partnerships, in addition to building networks with all relevant stakeholders, whether governments, international financial institutions, or non-governmental organizations, which are committed to our African cause. In this regard, South-South cooperation for the aim of sharing experiences and best practices among developing countries close to Africa, like Sri Lanka, is of vital importance.
A research of African heritage in Sri Lanka by Nirosha Kulasekara was presented at the event.
Let's now take a look at some views expressed by the chairman of the Surakimu Sri Lanka National Movement, Venerable Pahiyangala Anandasagara Thera.
These rulers don't have the authority to destroy forest reserves or national resources. Basil Rajapaksa hands over a document to the Vilpattu Forest Reserve without even consulting anyone. Rishad Badiuddin was asked to clear 4,600 acres. If you take the Central Expressway, what report has been done on that? Nothing has been done. Reports have been presented by environmentalists, scientists and geoscientists. We are yet studying these reports. The Central Hills will face a massive environmental crisis in the near future. The main intention is to build a highway. The highway comes with a commission, so it will be used as an accessory to show that a highway was also built during this government, like the Rajapakshas. They are doing this while risking the safety of the country. Minister Kiriyalla wants to auction lands on top of the Central Hills to his daughters, sisters and relatives. More than 100,000 acres of his forest lands from Tabboa to Batiklo have been destroyed. When Ranil Wickremesinghe signs the agreement with America to build a corridor from Trincomalee, more than 10,000 acres will be lost. They do not care about the national resources of the country. The environmental ministers who spoke about this have now built port cities. There is no point in making complaints. When cases are filed, judges resign.
Taking a look at more news from here at home, former governor of the Eastern Province, MLA Hizbullah, testified before the parliamentary committee to look into the April 21st attacks today.
Katangudi Council is under full control of you?
Yes, not under control, but my supporters are there, yes.
Why do you have name boards that are in Arabic?
You know, there was no law, Chairman, not to use Arabic. There was no in Sri Lanka law. To attract the tourism, and especially, especially Arabs, normally large number of Arabs, normally these days, May, June, July, you were aware that large number of Arabs used to come.
You said that name boards in Arabic text were used to attract tourists to the area. When we visited the Katangudi area and the Batiklo campus, we witnessed date palms grown in the middle of the road. Why are date palms grown in this country? I initially decided to plant the foxtail palm. I even went to Pasyala to order this plant. I even discussed this matter with a Sinhalese doctor in Pasyala, who is an expert in this field. He said that the foxtail palm cannot survive in such warm climates. The center of the road also concentrates too much of heat. Therefore, the plant would die. He then proposed that date palms be planted instead. I was under the impression that date palm plants could be imported. However, the quarantine department did not approve this. There is nothing special about date palm trees. The date palm is a plant that can survive the heat in the area, and that is why we planted them.
Climate eකට match වෙන්න පුළුවන් ගස් දෙමේ දාලා තියෙන වෙන මොකුත් නෑ. තල් ගස් එතකොට. ඉතින් අපි රටේ ඉඳි ගස් එක තෝරගත්තා. තල් ගසුත් තැනට පුළුවන් ප්‍රශ්නයක් නෑ.
Sri Lanka Suduja.
Even though we are not the majority in Sri Lanka, we are the majority in the world. What does that statement mean?
There was a discussion in mosque after the Friday mosque, not only the Eastern Province, all over the country, Muslims was after these incidents very scared. So Muslims are in Sri Lanka, we are minority, but globally we are majority. So you don't want to worry about that. That's the way I said, the media.
The media had edited what I said and only aired this particular part of my statement. I made such a statement to give courage to the people, to restore their confidence and to encourage them to go forward with their businesses. I did not have any other idea. To be honest, I did not intend to even address the public. Are you publicly rejecting this statement? Sri Lanka is my country and I have made several sacrifices for this country. This is me addressing the parliament 3 years ago. During my address, I referred to Sri Lanka as a Buddhist country thrice. Following such remarks, the Muslim community even criticized me.
Zahran, 2015.
After nominations for the 2015 parliamentary elections concluded, Zahran called all Muslim candidates to his office for a discussion. I was not the only one who attended this meeting. Candidates from the Sri Lanka Muslim Congress, Abdul Rahman, who contested from Katangudi, then Shibli Farooq, they were all present.
Shibli Farooq,
He's a terrorist. There is no doubt about that. He's a terrorist and a murderer. But in 2015, he was just a leader of a religious group and was not labelled as a terrorist. We had not met Zahran and we did not know him. We only knew him as a religious leader. We lodged a complaint against Zahran, who we identified only as a religious leader and not as a terrorist. You are the prominent and leading politician in Kathtankudi. All these incidents took place in Kathtankudi. What was the reason for you not to be aware of Zahran's violent behavior when locals in the area were aware of it? Honestly, I was not aware of his violent behavior. If I was aware, I would have informed the relevant authorities. He acted against me. When I learned of his death, I was the happiest person on earth. I have no opposition against me when contesting for the upcoming elections. I am happy that he is not alive to contest for the upcoming elections. If he was a terrorist, I would have most definitely lodged a complaint against him.
Taking a look at news from the political sphere, General Secretary of the UPFA, Mahinda Amarveera, made the following remarks regarding US agreements during a media briefing held today.
The AXA agreement has already been signed, and now they are planning to sign an agreement even more harmful to the country, the SOFA agreement. This agreement allows foreign forces to enter the country and includes several proposals that imposes limitations to arrest or enforce the law against such individuals. We clearly state that this agreement will harm the sovereignty of our country. On the 27th of this month, Mike Pompeo, the US Secretary of State, is due to visit Sri Lanka. We have no issue that such a senior officer is visiting our country. However, it is reported that his visit will exert some pressure to expedite the signing of this agreement. We are of the stance that this will be a threat to the security and the sovereignty of our nation. When we raise questions in Parliament in this regard, they say that the Parliament has already been informed of the signing of the agreement. The government signed multiple agreements without informing Parliament. I even made a request to the President to provide us with the information in this regard. The President is also comprehensively analysing these matters.
The Chief Justice has granted the Attorney General permission to forward indictments against the accused in the February 27, 2015 Central Bank Treasury Bond issue to the Western Province Permanent High Court trial at bar.
The 10 accused are ex-Central Bank Governor Arjuna Mahendran, ex-Central Bank Deputy Governor P. Samarasiri, Perpetual Treasuries Limited, PTL Beneficial Owner Arjuna Aloysius, PTL CEO Kasun Palisena, Jeffrey Joseph Aloysius, Pushya Gunawardena, Ranjan Hulugalla, Muthuraja Surendran and Ajan Punchiheva. The accused are charged with conspiracy to commit criminal misappropriation in respect to treasury bonds to the face value of 10.058 billion rupees against all suspects. Criminal breach of trust in respect to treasury bonds against the first and second suspects and causing loss to the government to the sum of 688 million rupees. The Attorney General will accordingly present the indictments on the 23 counts involving 7 charges against the accused. The charges were presented under the Public Property Act and the Registered Stocks and Securities Ordinance.
The All Ceylon Estate Workers Union convened a media briefing in Colombo today.
Prime Minister Ranil Wickremesinghe has left to Singapore. I think he went to meet Arjuna Mahendran.
Take a look at some sports news. We are just 2 days away from the second leg of the Blue Ribbon encounter of schools rugby. Will Trinity pull off a surprise, or will it be 3 in a row for Royal?
Trinity coming back, we saw them suffering a hard defeat against St. Peter's here in Colombo at Royal Complex. What do you think Trinity is like?
Well, life's not going to get easy for you, Trinity. 32 points to 5, that was a fair thumping at Bumblebee. So Trinity will have to go back to Palle Calais, lick their own wounds, and guess what? Drive all the way down to Colombo. Now, they're coming to Jurassic Park. My expectation and my prediction is that, Royal are going to really put the foot down. Unless of course, something strange and something miraculous can happen, which I think is a very low probability.
But if Trinity wants some inspiration, going back to 2011, led by Murad Ramsey, Trinity came back 8-point deficit here in Colombo. They finished Royal.
That's right. So 2011, wow, what a special year. And Murad Ramsey, one of my fellow co-commentators on the broadcast team, they lost the first leg, which was up in Kandy and Bogumbra, by an 8-point margin. They didn't panic. They backed their systems and processes, And, they gave Royal a 40-point hiding. It was 40 points to 5. It could have been, a bigger margin. But again, it shows that, if you show pride in your jersey, in yourself, believe in your systems and processes, and mind you, Trinity have a very, very good coaching staff.
Interestingly, both the teams are coached by two old boys, which is a rare feat after a long time.
Look, it's how fitting that the 75th or the diamond anniversary, two old boys now. Inti Marikka played for Trinity with a record-breaking team captained by the great Tiro Rajapaksa back in 1987.
Probably the last team to win the league for Trinity.
That's right. And obviously Zahran playing in the 2002 team. Incidentally, my brother was part of that team. Now
Zulki Hamid's
record-breaking on the 83-0 club. That was an absolute devastation. So both these coaches well-credentialed and of course a considerable amount of experience coaching and playing at all levels, and both of these gentlemen have a lot of strong connections to New Zealand. So I think from a tactical point of view, there's no shortage of rugby IQ. It just comes down to who actually wants this the most, and of course what type of playing patterns and how they approach this game, because it's a 70-minute game. They need to break it down into little time slots and actually target getting certain points per time slot.
After that insightful sports item, let's take a look back at some local news. This 202nd village under the Samata Sevana Yali Pibidana Udagammana program was vested with the public today. The event was held under the auspices of Minister of Housing, Construction and Cultural Affairs and the Deputy Leader of the UNP, Minister Sajith Premadasa.
The UL Dawood Gramam village has been constructed in Meech Nagar in Evarpattu in the Batikru district. This village, comprising 25 houses, has been built at a cost of 71.4 million rupees. The 25 owners were presented deeds, while 100 low-income earning families were given housing loans amounting to 17.7 million rupees.
Some lazy politicians are trying to play their best possible race. They ask that they be supported because of their race and others not be supported because of theirs. But what is funny is that such people, when they go to the hospital for an ailment, go to the best doctor. They do not care about the race or religion. They don't care if the doctor is Sinhalese, Burger, Tamil or Muslim. Just like Ranasinghe Premadasa, Sajith Premadasa is not concerned about race, caste, religion or creed. Premadasa's son will build a Sri Lanka where brotherhood and coexistence will reign.
And that's a wrap of primetime news on TV1 for tonight. I leave you with some of the views expressed by the chairman of the Surakimu Sri Lanka National Movement, Venerable Pahiyangala Anandasagara Thera. Take care and good night.
When Ranil Wickremesinghe signs the agreement with America to build a corridor from Trincomalee, more than 10,000 acres will be lost. They do not care about the national resources of the country. The environmental ministers who spoke about this have now built port cities. There is no point in making complaints. When cases are filed, judges resign.